Your Excellency, in the last seminary newsletter, you wrote about a proposed new home for the seminary, a building in the northeast. Our present facility has become too small for the number of seminarians we expect to have in the proximate future. But now, with the coronavirus and the effect of the coronavirus on the economy, are you still thinking of moving north?
Yes, I've foreseen this problem coming for a while, and for 2 years I've been looking on various sites for an alternative for our seminary. We have a total of 13 student rooms, and we have 11 seminarians right now. One is about to be ordained, so he will take up one of the priest's rooms. So that will leave 3 rooms available. Now, there are already 3 seminarians who would definitely like to come next year. So that means at this point, this is the middle of April exactly, and we could still see other applicants, maybe 3 or 4 more applicants before the end, the end of the academic year. And so we're already there. We have a problem. So the choice is either we build or buy, and in order to expand, or we just say we stay where we are and we have to turn down seminarians. We have to send them away, so we just are not capable of receiving you. And which is a horrifying thought in these times when when the solution to the church's problem is well-trained priests. That is all the things we can do to solve the church's problem is to train priests well, who will hopefully one day become perhaps the prelates of the future, who will restore sanity to the Catholic Church. It's the only solution. And therefore, it's essential to what we're doing. All the other things we do, whether it could be days of recollection or even saying Mass on Sunday and preaching to the people and distributing sacraments, all of those things do not compare to the training of priests as far as the solution of the problem in the church. So I took the choice of buying a place instead of building, and you might say why. The reason is that to build would be monstrously expensive. We got an estimate on a school building that recently that was $450 a square foot, and that was for relatively cheap construction. And a school, is just empty classrooms with a few common bathrooms. So it's really nothing. It's a box. And when I heard that figure of $450 a square foot, if we were to add on, say, 10,000 square feet, that would be $4.5 million. And it would be more than that, because we would have to put in much more infrastructure, that is, more bathrooms, various other things that a regular apartment house would have, for example, and not just a box that a school is. And so I realized, we just do not have those kind of funds. And so I started looking for a place to move to. And so at long last, I looked at a few places. Most are too big, because we cannot afford, say, something to maintain something that is 100,000 square feet. We looked at a place in Pennsylvania that consisted of 11 buildings, and it was over 100,000 square feet, and you have to maintain all of those buildings. You have to put new roofs on, new gutters, all sorts of things, windows. So you have to look down the line. Are we able to afford these things? So So I had to look for a building of limited size. And finally, we did find something in the northeastern part of the United States, and I went and made a move on it. And wouldn't you know that the coronavirus problem put a damper on the whole thing. And the reason was that part of the funds that I would use to buy this place, which, by the way, comes out to $45 a square foot, came from an inheritance that we were receiving that was all in stocks. Well, you know what happened to the stock market in the past 2 months. So it lost a great deal of its value, and therefore I had to pull out of the contract at the last minute because I didn't think we had enough funds to go through with it. Because I have to not only purchase the building, and the purchase price was $1,050,000, but we also had to remodel the building to a great extent. We had to put in extra showers. We had to put in a new kitchen. The building is in good shape, but it needs to be brought up by remodeling to certain standards that we have for running it as a seminary. It had served for an assisted living at one point. It has, so that was good because a lot of rooms, it created a lot of rooms, a lot of bathrooms. I think it has 20 some bathrooms in it. And so the building is right for us, but I was afraid that we couldn't afford the remodeling that was necessary. So I had to pull out of it at the last minute.
And what about now? What is the next step? Are you considering or reconsidering going back to that?
Well, if I could have confidence that we had the money to remodel it, because I think that would be probably between $150,000 and $200,000 to remodel it, and that has to be done fairly quickly, so we can't wait for that money. I would go back into the purchase agreement. So if somebody were to hand me a check today, for example, for $100,000, I would go and buy that building, and we would solve our problems, our seminary problems, by buying that building and remodeling it the way we need to do. But now we have had some very generous donations from people, but you know we have a limited group of people that we're working with. We take a very strong stance against Vatican II and against having anything to do with the Novus Ordo. We do not aspire to be part of the Novus Ordo as other groups do. And that strong stance has always limited the number of people who are interested in what we do and who support what we do. If we were to become something like the Society of St. Pius X that proposes to everyone that we hook up with the Novus Ordo and that we accept Vatican II and all the modernist religion as the Catholic religion, if we were to do that, we would probably have their money or close to it. But we will not sell ourselves in that way. We will deal with our limited resources in order to preserve the truth. But they are limited resources, so we do ask our people to be as generous as they can in this project of producing more priests and priests that are well trained. And it would just be a tragedy to say to a young man who is aspiring that we just don't have the room for you. That would just be tragic to say that to someone, and that we can't take you. And there's not a lot of choice, you know. There's in seminaries that hold our position and who, you know, uncompromising Catholic priests, as we say in our mail out, that you're contributing to uncompromising Catholic priests. And I established a seminary in 1995, and I use that term, that this is what we're training. in comparison to the SSPX, who are training, I would say, compromising Catholic priests who might say the traditional Mass and might know some traditional theology, but who have this bent upon reconciling with the Novus Ordo. And we will never do that. So the options for a young man are very limited. He might be able to go to Italy, for example, but he has to learn Italian in order to do that. And many young men are incapable of doing that, or it's just too daunting for them to do that. So we're really drawing from the whole English-speaking world, including Nigeria and Australia and every place that speaks English, and in many cases where they don't speak English but they learn English, we're appealing to them. See, for example, we have a Polish fellow coming next year who speaks English perfectly. All of those Eastern countries where there are a lot of Catholics speak English as their second language. It is the language to know today. So we're appealing to them too. In other words, we are drawing from not only, let's say, the old British Empire, but we're drawing from people who are conversant in English. We had last year someone from Brazil who spoke perfect English. And it happens quite a bit that people are very, very knowledgeable in English. So we are the English-speaking seminary. And we have, for example, 2 young men in Great Britain right now who are very, very interested. They're too young yet, but in a year or 2, they should be ready. They are we have to make room for these people. So we have to go to our own supporters and say, please give, in order that we can have room for young men. This new seminary has 26 rooms for seminarians, and our present facility has only 13. So we would double our ability to receive seminarians. It also has more priests' rooms, and that is another consideration, is that as the priests come up, they need a place to live. So we would be, if we stay here, all of our priest rooms will be taken. So we need this expansion, and we have to reach out to our people to contribute to the expansion.
And with regard to the possibility of the Northeast, you think it's also an opportunity to expand our apostolate?
Yes, the northeast part of the United States is the most populated area of the country in general. So if you take New England and then New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, if you just take those states, that constitutes a great deal of the population of the United States, and it also is has the highest concentration of Catholics in the United States. So those are, the Catholic Church is very, very well established in that area. So the draw, there would be a more favorable draw, you might say, than placing the seminary in Oklahoma, where it's only 5% Catholic and there's not much population in comparison. So it is the place to be, and we don't have any presence in the Northeast, and I think so that's why I was always looking there. Also, since we do have a good relationship with many priests in Europe, it is closer to airports that go to Europe, New York and Philadelphia and various other places, so that helps us as well. See, one of our problems is that we have to be close to a large airport because we do so much traveling. So that was a restriction on where we could go. Sometimes you might find something in a very remote part of the world or the United States, but you're so far from a major airport that it's impossible for us. So we have to be relatively close to a major airport, and so you have that. So it is closer to Europe. It is in a place that I think would draw a lot of people, and it would help us expand our apostolate.
So in summary, right now we have 11 seminarians, 13 rooms, and if we get more than 2,
Well, one is becoming a priest, so we'll have 3 free rooms next year. We have 3 seminarians who have said they're definite for next year.
so we have a real problem.
We have a real problem. Because right now we cannot take anyone else as we stand right now.
And as you said before, to build an extension here is impossible because of how expensive it is.
Yes, I would say $5 to $6 million easily. And it would take years to build it. When you get through all of the red tape, the bureaucracy, all of this, what they make you do now to build something. You have to make sure the turtles are moved. And it costs something like, well, back in 2004, it cost $1,200 per turtle to move them, to pick up the turtle and bring him someplace else. And there's a specially designated person in the county who, and only he can handle the turtle, pick up the turtle, and put him someplace else. And these are turtles that are not endangered at all. You see them all over the place. It's like all those endangered species that were once endangered, but they let the law go so much that they reproduce, inordinately, and so they're not really endangered at all. But that's part of it. If you find Indian beads, you have to stop construction and have somebody come out and look at the Indian beads. I mean, these are really insane things that you have to do. The approvals take forever and ever. The approvals are very expensive. The architectural fees, and many engineering fees, etc. You're looking at it, just so much time. It would take perhaps at least 3 years to build that.
And also the expense, probably people are hearing right now the noise of construction here, so we are repairing certain things, and it's very expensive.
It is. Well, there's certain yes, any kind of construction is very expensive, and people just don't realize that. They say, why don't you build? Building is out of sight, and it is also so bureaucratically burdened now that it's just practically impossible. You have to be enormously rich in order to build anything today.
Yes. So people have been very generous so far, but we need more help.
We do. And if I get it quickly, I would feel confident about going ahead with this project. And so I would ask people, if I know this is a bad time because it's uncertain, but if you can help now, this will alleviate our room problem for seminarians, and I can. This 26 rooms would hold us for a long time, I think.
All right. On that note, we can end this short interview. Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you to all our listeners. And please click on the links below to make your contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you.